When Thatcher Demko was drafted as the second-round Vancouver Canucks goaltender in the 2014 NHL Entry Draft, the big story was that he was not actually the first goaltender taken off the board. That honor belonged to Mason McDonald, who 2 picks earlier went to the Calgary Flames because I think it was Brian Burke, who was actually the GM at the time. He was really concerned, along with the Calgary Flames and their scouting staff, about Thatcher Demko and the health problems related to his hip that might actually lead to him getting surgery down the line. Now, that happened. He got surgery a little bit later, but the story writes itself straight out of the Elite Prospects profile page, because Mason McDonald right now is a 25-year-old 6'4", 201 right-handed catching goaltender who is playing for the Tulsa Oilers in the ECHL. He's spent his entire career in either the minors with the AHL Stockton Heat or Colorado Eagles, or in the Kansas City Mavericks or the Adirondack Thunder or the Tulsa Oilers or the Utah Grizzlies. He has been up and down in the AHL, ECHL this entire time, and this guy was taken before Thatcher Demko because Thatcher Demko's health was kind of a problem in Calgary's eyes. But it's not just Thatcher Demko, who is a very good goaltending prospect, taken later in this draft, and he probably should have been selected. He was selected 36th overall. If you go down the list of goaltenders taken in this draft, Dan Murphy kind of lays it out right on the line right here, because the list of goaltenders, not all of them, just some of them, is, it's very, very deep. So, 36th overall, you had yourselves Thatcher Demko to Vancouver. Guess who went immediately after Demko? He's a Carolina Hurricanes guy. He's played 5 seasons. His name is Alex Nedeljkovic. Okay, that's a good goaltender right there. 2 picks later, you have yourselves the Washington Capitals selecting a guy whose name you might recognize. Former Seattle Kraken himself, Vitek Vanecek. There you go. There's another goaltender who is another one of these guys who is either a starter or a 1A, 1B kind of tweener. 3 in a row right there in the span of, 4 draft picks, 36, 37, 38, and 39. Very good right there. And then when you go into the 3rd round, things get a little bit more nuttier, because Dan Murphy didn't actually put this in the tweet, but take a look at who was taken 76th overall. Columbus selected Elvis Merzlikins. Okay, that's the caliber of talent we're dealing with, eh? Guess who comes next? 2 picks after Elvis Merzlikins. The New York Islanders selected out of Russia, Elia freaking Sorokin, 78th overall. But guess what? It gets even better, because as you go to 109th overall in the 4th round, the Minnesota Wild took a guy whose name you might recognize. He was a potential 2nd overall pick in the 2019 NHL Entry Draft, Kaapo Kahkonen. No, not Kaapo Kahkonen, and he has actually been a pretty good goaltender so far for Minnesota right now. And then you go 9 picks after this Minnesota one, and you get yourselves the big one, the big fish, the 2nd goaltender taken by the Rangers in this draft, Igor Shashirkan, 118th overall. Now this is actually crazy, because if you go to any of the next drafts or any of the drafts before that, you will not find goaltending that is as good as this 2014 class. This might be one of the best goaltender classes we have seen in a very long time, and will see for a very long time, and it's even crazier because all these guys were 2nd+ round picks. Nobody was taken in the 1st round. So, let's just go over each and every one of these guys right here. Thatcher Demko, 25 years old. I mean, they're all going to be 25 years old, right? Because they're all taken in the same year. 6'4", 192, starter for the Vancouver Canucks right here. He's got a .918 and a .259 goals against in 10 games played. Now, the problem with Thatcher Demko is that he has some numbers that you would look at and you would be like, okay, he's got a .905 in 2019-20. He's got a .915 in 2021 and a .918 so far this season. Those are pretty good numbers, right? His goals against is a little bit high, but we can manage right there. Thatcher Demko and the way that he can perform on a night-in, night-out basis is mostly defined by what everybody would like to say is Bubble Demko. Because in the bubble against the Vegas Golden Knights, Thatcher Demko had 4 games played, he had a .64 goals against and a .985 save percentage. My goodness, it blows my mind every time I acknowledge it. The thing with Demko is that he actually plays this good a lot. But you wouldn't really see it in the numbers, because the Vancouver Canucks, as of late, like ever since that bubble series against Vegas and everything that preceded that, so the entire playoff run in the 1920 season and all, everything's been kind of going bad for Vancouver. Now, I'm recording this video Tuesday on the 9th, so I don't know what actually happened today against the Anaheim Ducks, but it doesn't matter because Yaroslav Halak is going to be playing anyways. But for Thatcher Demko, one of the best goalies in the league, in my heart he is. It's why the Canucks were able to go out there and get rid of Jacob Markstrom with no really, really bad consequences, even though that guy is one of the best goaltenders in the world right now too. Now, next goaltender taken after Thatcher Demko, the very next pick, Alex Nedeljkovic, out of the Carolina system. Now, we know the story with Nedeljkovic. He made his NHL full-time, non-rookie status season last year, and he had a 9.32 and a 1.9. That is fantastic. In the postseason, he posted up a 2.17 goals against and a 9.20 save percentage, even though he went 4-5-0. The numbers, statistically, not bad. However, there will be some people in Carolina that will actually say that maybe Nedeljkovic could have been a tad better, but that's besides the point. He went from a Carolina team that was pretty stacked to a Detroit Red Wings team where he is 2-2-0 in the 7-game sample he has played, and he's got 3 goals against per game. So it's not the best, but of course, Detroit is Detroit, so you could definitely understand why there's a statistical decline. Still, a 9.10 for one of the worst teams in the league is not bad per se, which is why for Nedeljkovic, who is also 25 years old, go figure, they're all 25 years old, he's got himself a good career ahead of him. Next up, Vitek Vanecek, a few picks after Nedeljkovic. He actually had himself an injury that will sideline him for the next few weeks. It's not the best, but it is what it is. He was a Seattle Kraken for... How long was he a Seattle Kraken for? A week! He was selected by the Kraken in the expansion draft, and then he went back to Washington a week later. He was really good last year, a 908 save percentage and a 269 goals against. This season, though, he's putting up pretty much the same amount of numbers. He kind of got outplayed in the postseason last year as the Washington Capitals chose to rely a lot more on Craig Anderson and Elia Samsonov, but still, having Vanecek in the system as a guy who could play a significant amount of games, he had 37 last year, as we noted, still, pretty good pickup right there. Then you go down the line, Elia Sorokin, Elvis Merzlikins, these guys are absolute studs. If you go over to Elvis and see what he's been going up to, everybody is talking about Joonas Korpisalo trade rumors, mostly because the fact that you have Merzlikins on your team signed till 2027 at $4 million a season, this could be a pretty good steal of a contract if Merzlikins plays to the level that we know he is capable of. He's at a 9.40 right now in the league and a 1.98 goals against in 6 games played. Certainly non-disputable, a fantastic goaltender in his own right. Then you have, of course, Elia Samsonov, who was taken just a little... Excuse me, not Elia Samsonov. Elia Sorokin, taken just a bit after that. You want to talk about good numbers? My goodness, he's at a 9.392 and a 1.98 goals against in 9 games. So you gotta really appreciate just the talent of goaltending that is right here. In the 5 wins that Sorokin has, 3 of them have been shutouts. I get it, he plays for the Islanders. They're a very good defensively minded team. But you cannot discredit just how good the goaltending has been as well. Elia Sorokin, Igor Sha Shuriken, Elia Samsonov, all these guys from Russia that were over there coming over to the NHL were here to make a statement, and my goodness have they done that in the best way possible the past few years. Going down the list, Kaapo Kahkonen of the Minnesota Wild. He only really solidified himself as an NHL goaltender recently. Drafted in the 4th round in 2014, he had spent so many years in Finland, eventually in the Iowa Wild system in the AHL, before finally getting 20-plus games played in the NHL in 2020-2021. Now, he had himself a pretty bad set of numbers. Even this year, he's at an 8.60 and a 3.63 goals against. And the Minnesota Wild right now, if you take a look at who they're relying on in net, most of the starts have gone to Cam Talbot, who hasn't really been great statistically, but he's winning a lot of games because the Wild are scoring a lot of goals, so it kind of balances itself out, sort of. But either way, Kaapo Kahkonen is still a young guy that has himself a boatload of potential, and when it comes to the final guy we talked about over here, Igor Shashirkan, what more can you say about Shashirkan that already has not been said? My freaking goodness. He is just, in my opinion, the best one here. Like, I get it, some other guys might have better numbers than he does, but just in terms of the quality of saves that this guy makes, that game against Toronto stands out to me so much. He's got a 9.31 right now and a 2.37 goals against. He's 6-2-0 in 10 games with 1 shutout. I'm a really big fan of Igor Shashirkan, especially ever since he was just an absolute monster in the KHL. 9.50s and 9.30s in a league where he was in his early 20s. You absolutely cannot go wrong with that. So for Shashirkan, Sorokin, Kahkonen, Merzlikins, Vanecek, Nedeljkovic, Thatcher Demko, all these guys right here, fantastic NHL goaltenders. They all could pretty much define a goaltending class, maybe except for Kaapo Kahkonen, if any of these guys had been drafted in any other draft. But the fact is, they were all taken together. So talk to me in the comments, what do you think about all these players over here, the goaltenders, and how good they have been in their early NHL careers. I hope you enjoyed this Virtanen Rolls 99, and bye.